Is it possible to be friends with a pick-me girl? Me and my bestie were at a party after her breakup when a group of tall, scary-looking men walked in. We should go, I whispered to Vanessa. In response, she turned to them and practically shouted, "You always want to leave when the hot guys show up. Are you jealous of me or something?" The men looked over and I saw their faces change. Like sharks smelling blood. Vanessa was already walking toward them, that desperate bounce in her step she did when she got any male attention. "Birthday shots!" she squealed, grabbing my wrist. Her nails cut into me as she dragged me toward the terrace. The men followed, spreading out, surrounding us. The terrace door clicked behind us. Click. The automatic lock activated. We were trapped out here with them, and Vanessa was giggling like it was cute. Vanessa! She was already pressed against one of them, the one with the ugly designer shirt. Another guy blocked the door, just standing there. Casual, but I knew. "Your friend looks scared," one of them said, laughing. "She's always like this around men," Vanessa said. "Probably because she hasn't been touched in months. Right, babe?" My face burned. The men exchanged looks. "That true?" Ugly Shirt asked me directly, moving closer. "We should go," I said firmly. But Vanessa laughed. A fake, high-pitched laugh. "See? She can't even talk to you. It's actually sad. That's why I brought her. Thought maybe you guys could help her loosen up." I got my phone out. Vanessa saw and her face went psycho. "No phones!" She ripped it from my hand, scratching me deep enough to bleed, then held my phone up like a trophy. "She's always on this thing. Probably texting her mom. She still lives at home, you know." The men laughed harder. Ugly Shirt took my phone from her, put it in his pocket, smiled at me while he did it. "No mommy to save you now," he said. Vanessa was lying, but the men were eating it up, looking at me like I was this sheltered little girl. Exactly how Vanessa was painting me. "Bet she's never even done shots," another one said. "Virgin everything," Vanessa giggled. I went for the door and Vanessa tackled me. Like, threw her whole body at my legs. I hit the deck chair hard and tasted blood in my mouth. "You're not ruining this for me," she hissed while I tried to breathe. Then louder, performing, "She always does this." Such a drama queen. One time she faked a seizure to leave a date. I'd never done that. The men were circling now. "Maybe she needs to be taught how to have fun," Ugly Shirt said. "Yes!" Vanessa clapped. Actually clapped. "That's what I've been saying. She just needs the right teachers." One grabbed my arm to help me up. His grip too tight. Another touched my hair. "Pretty thing like this shouldn't be so uptight. Right?" Vanessa said. I keep telling her. Like, just relax. Stop being so rigid. I yanked away. Vanessa rolled her eyes like I was embarrassing her. "She probably thinks you guys are gonna assault her or something," she said. "She thinks every man is a predator. It's actually really offensive." The words hung there. The men's faces changed. "We're not predators," Ugly Shirt said slowly. "We're nice guys." "The nicest," Vanessa agreed. "She's just paranoid because she watches too much true crime." "Maybe she needs a drink," the quiet one said, already at the bar. "I don't drink," I said. "She thinks she's too good to drink with you," Vanessa said immediately. "She only drinks expensive wine with her book club, where they read poetry." She said it like poetry was a disease. The quiet one was pouring shots. I saw him drop something in 2 glasses. Quick movements. Practiced. My stomach dropped. "Vanessa, don't—" "Oh my gosh," she cut me off. "Now she's gonna say the drinks are drugged. She does this every time. Remember Duke's party?" She turned to the men. She accused the host of putting something in the punch. Turned out she was just a lightweight. That never happened. Duke's party never happened. But the men nodded like they understood. "Sounds like she needs to prove she trusts us," Ugly Shirt said. Vanessa grabbed the spiked glass. I grabbed her wrist. "Stop," I begged. She shoved me hard. I stumbled back. "Stop what? Stop having fun? Stop making friends? Stop trying to get a boyfriend? Just because you're miserable doesn't mean I have to be. The drink, there's nothing in the drink." She held it up. "Watch. I'll prove she's crazy." She chugged the whole thing, staring at me while she did it. The men watched, amused. The quiet one poured another and slid it to me. "Your turn," he said. I tried to sidestep. He followed. They all moved closer. "Guys," Vanessa said, but her voice was already thick. She's not fun. I told you. Waste of time. We'll be the judge of that," one said. Vanessa swayed but caught herself on the bar. "I don't feel lightweight," Ugly Shirt said, but he was watching her like a documentary. Clinical. She tried to fix her hair, but her hands weren't working right. "I'm fine. I'm fun. I'm not like her." "No," he agreed. "You're much easier." That's when she looked at me, and I saw it dawn on her. What she'd done. What was happening. Her pupils were huge. She blinked hard. "I want to go home." She dropped to the ground and all the men surrounded me, one of them kneeling beside her. The terrace door clicked and swung open. Security had finally gotten it unlocked. I shoved past the man kneeling by Vanessa and ran for the opening. My legs felt shaky, but I made it through. Inside the venue, the music was still playing. People were dancing like nothing had happened. Behind me, I heard the men talking to security. Their voices were calm and friendly. One of them was saying we invited them out there, that we wanted to party. I kept moving toward the bar. My hands were shaking, so hard I could barely hold on to the edge. The bartender looked at me and her eyes went wide. I grabbed the house phone from behind the bar. My finger slipped on the buttons twice before I got 911 dialed. The operator answered and I tried to explain. My friend collapsed. Someone put something in her drink. We were trapped on the terrace with these men. The operator asked for the address and I had to look around for a sign to read it to her. The bartender slid a glass of water across to me. She leaned in close and whispered that she saw something weird when those guys ordered. That the quiet one did something with his hands over the glasses. I nodded and kept talking to the operator. She said help was coming. To stay on the line. I could see through the glass doors that the men were still on the terrace. Still surrounding Vanessa. One of them had his phone out now. Probably calling someone. The sirens came fast. Within minutes, the EMTs were pushing through the crowd with their equipment. I led them to the terrace. Vanessa was still on the ground. One of the men was still kneeling beside her like he was so concerned. The paramedics rushed over and started checking her, taking her pulse, shining a light in her eyes. I told them she was drugged, that the quiet one put something in her drink. I pointed right at him. But he had already moved away from the bar area. His hands were empty. He gave me this innocent look like I was crazy. The EMTs were asking Vanessa questions, but she could barely answer. Her words came out thick and wrong. The police showed up right after. 2 officers in uniform. They started separating everyone to get statements. I watched the men's faces change, like they were putting on masks. Confused, innocent, helpful. The ugly shirt guy was already talking to one officer. I could hear pieces of what he was saying. That we invited them to hang out. That Vanessa was flirting all night. That she was drinking before they even got there. I felt sick. He was so smooth about it. So believable. The other officer came over to me. He looked young. Maybe just a few years older than me. I started talking fast. Too fast. I could hear my voice getting higher. I told him about the locked door. About seeing the quiet one drop something in the drinks. About Vanessa drinking it and collapsing. About the men surrounding us. The officer was writing everything down in his little notebook. But his face stayed blank. He kept glancing over at the men. Like he was trying to figure out who was telling the truth. Like maybe I was just some drunk girl making things up. That look made my stomach drop. The EMTs came over and said Vanessa needed to go to the hospital. They asked if I was coming too. Part of me wanted to leave her. After everything she did. After she tackled me and gave those men my phone and told them all those lies about me. But I couldn't just abandon her when she was this messed up. When she could barely talk or move. So I said yes. I climbed into the ambulance with her. She was mumbling stuff. About the hot guys. About how fun the party was. She still didn't get it. Still didn't understand what almost happened to us. The ambulance ride felt long even though it probably wasn't. At the emergency room, they took Vanessa straight back. A nurse walked her through the doors and she disappeared. I was left in the waiting area. There was dried blood on my arm from where she scratched me earlier. The cuts were deeper than I thought. My phone was gone. Still in that man's pocket with all my contacts and photos and everything. I felt completely cut off. Like I was watching this happen to someone else. Like I wasn't really sitting in this plastic chair under these bright lights. A nurse came out after a while. He introduced himself as Otto. He was gentle when he talked. He said that since I was given a drugged drink too, they should do an exam. Collect evidence, just in case. I agreed. I was grateful someone was taking this seriously. Otto walked me through what the exam would involve. How they would take samples. How the evidence would be stored and tracked. How it might be used later if there was a case. It all sounded very official and real. During the exam, Otto gave me a tablet. He said I could record a voice memo if I wanted. To get everything out while it was still fresh. So I did. I started talking into the tablet. My voice sounded weird. Too high. Too shaky. I talked about how Vanessa shouted that I was jealous. How she dragged me to the terrace. How she took my phone and scratched me. How she tackled me when I tried to leave. How she told the men I was paranoid. How she set me up. How she drank the drugged shot to prove I was crazy. I talked about the men circling us. About the locked door. About Ugly Shirt putting my phone in his pocket. About the quiet one dropping something in the drinks. I talked until I ran out of words. After the exam, I went back to the waiting area. I didn't know what else to do. Then the bartender from the venue showed up. She found me sitting there. She said her name was Natasha. She gave me her contact information on a piece of paper. Said she was willing to make a statement about what she saw. She told me she noticed the quiet one doing something weird with the drinks. That her manager told her not to get involved. That she felt bad about that now. That she should have said something right away. I thanked her. I folded the paper carefully and put it in my pocket. It felt important. Like proof that I wasn't making this up. That someone else saw what I saw. A nurse came to get me from the waiting area. She walked me back to where they were keeping Vanessa. The room was small and bright. Too bright. Vanessa was sitting up in the hospital bed. Her eyes were clearer now. More focused. I felt relief for a second. Then she opened her mouth. "Why are you still here?" she asked. Her voice was annoyed. Like I was bothering her. "You made such a huge deal out of nothing. Those guys were into me and you ruined it." The nurse who brought me in stopped moving. Just froze by the door. Staring at Vanessa. I couldn't process what I was hearing. "Vanessa, they drugged you," I said. My voice came out flat. "They drugged both of us. You collapsed." She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her eyes at me. "I had too much to drink. That's different. You always do this. You always make everything about you being scared or whatever." The nurse stepped forward. "Miss, Do you understand what happened tonight? Vanessa ignored her, kept looking at me with that mean expression she got sometimes. I finally meet guys who are actually hot and interested and you had to call an ambulance? Do you know how embarrassing that is? I felt something break inside me. Some last piece of hope that she would understand. That she would get it. They were going to assault us, I said. Each word felt heavy. Both of us. That's what they do. That's why they locked the door. Vanessa laughed. A bitter sound. You're so dramatic. They were just flirting. But you can't handle that because nobody ever flirts with you. The nurse looked between us. Her face showed shock and something else. Pity, maybe. For me. She opened her mouth to say something, but a patrol officer appeared in the doorway. He had a notebook in his hand. I need to take a detailed statement, he said, looking at me, not at Vanessa. I followed him to a small office down the hall. The walls were beige. Everything in hospitals is beige. He pulled out a chair for me and sat across a desk. Start from the beginning, he said. His pen was ready. Actually ready. Not like the first officer who seemed bored. So I started talking. I told him about Vanessa shouting that I was jealous when the men walked in, about her dragging me to the terrace, about the door locking behind us with that click, about how she took my phone and scratched me deep enough to bleed, about how she tackled me when I tried to leave, about her telling the men I was paranoid and dramatic and had never been touched, about the quiet one pouring shots and dropping something in 2 glasses, about Vanessa drinking the spiked shot to prove I was crazy, about the men circling closer when she collapsed. The officer kept writing. He asked questions about timing, about what each man did specifically, about where everyone was standing, about exactly what Vanessa said to them about me. He filled up pages in his notebook. When I finished, my throat hurt from talking. He looked up at me. The venue has security cameras, he said. We'll pull the footage. That made me feel something. Not quite hope, but close. They discharged me around 3 in the morning. A nurse handed me a stack of papers about the evidence collection, about how to get the results, about victim services. The card had a phone number I could call anytime. I put everything in my bag. Vanessa was being kept for observation. They wanted to monitor her longer. I didn't go back to say goodbye. I ordered a rideshare from the hospital entrance. The driver didn't ask questions, just drove. My apartment building looked different at night, darker. The hallway felt too long. I unlocked my door and stepped inside, then locked it behind me, then checked it again. The deadbolt, the chain, the handle, all locked. I checked the windows, all closed, all locked. I sat on my couch in the dark. Every sound from the hallway made me jump. Footsteps, voices, doors closing. My heart kept racing. I couldn't make it stop. I finally turned on all the lights, every single one. It didn't help much. The apartment still felt wrong. Too quiet, too empty. I kept thinking about those men, about Ugly Shirt putting my phone in his pocket, about the quiet one's practiced movements, about how close we came. I checked the locks again, still locked, but I checked anyway. The next morning I went to the phone store. The guy behind the counter was cheerful, too cheerful. I told him my phone was stolen. He set me up with a new one. Same number. When I logged into my accounts, the notifications started flooding in. Messages, comments, tags, dozens of them, all asking what happened. I opened social media. Vanessa had posted from the hospital. A long post. She said I caused a scene at a party, that I got her hurt, that I was jealous of her getting male attention, that I called ambulances and police for no reason, that she was the victim here. The comments were all supportive. Of her. People I thought were my friends. Telling her she deserved better. Asking if she was okay. Saying I sounded toxic. Nobody asked for my side. Nobody messaged me to check if I was alright. They just believed her. Every word. I sat in my car in the parking lot, scrolling through the comments, watching people I knew turn against me. Some of them I'd known for years. They didn't even hesitate. Just took her word and decided I was the problem. My hands were shaking. I wanted to comment, to explain, to tell them what really happened, but I didn't know how to fit the truth into a comment, how to make them understand. My phone rang. New number, but I answered anyway. Hello? My voice cracked. What happened? It was my older sister, Hattie. Her voice was sharp with worry. Mom called me. She said something happened at a party. Are you okay? I wasn't okay. The question broke something loose. I started crying, actually sobbing, right there in the phone store parking lot. I told her everything. About Vanessa's shouting, about the locked terrace, about the drugged drinks, about being surrounded, about Vanessa's posts now, about everyone believing her. Hattie was quiet while I talked. Then she said words that made me cry harder. I'm coming up. Right now. Pack a bag. You're not staying alone. I tried to argue. She lived 2 hours away. She had work, but she wasn't listening. I'm already getting my keys, she said. I'll be there by early afternoon. Don't go anywhere. Just wait for me. She hung up. I sat in my car, still crying, but feeling less alone. Hattie was coming. She believed me. That was something. Hattie showed up at 1 in the afternoon. She had grocery bags. Real food. Not just snacks. She hugged me hard in the doorway. The kind of hug that says I've got you. We went inside and she started unpacking, putting things in my fridge, making tea, moving around my kitchen like she owned it. Then she sat down with my new phone. Show me, she said. So I showed her. Every post Vanessa made, every comment, every message from people asking what I did. Hattie's jaw got tighter with each one. The muscle jumped. She screenshotted everything. "We're documenting this," she said. Her voice was hard. "When the police follow up, they need to see this. How she's trying to control the story. How she's lying." She created a folder, started organizing everything by date and time. She was always good at this stuff. At keeping records. At being thorough. I watched her work, feeling grateful, feeling less crazy. "You did the right thing," she said, not looking up from the phone. Calling for help, getting evidence collected. All of it. Don't let her make you doubt that. 2 days later, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "This is Detective Carson King," the voice said. Professional, but kind somehow. "I'm the investigator assigned to your case. I'd like you to come in for a detailed interview. Are you available?" My heart started pounding. "Yes," I said. "When?" He gave me a time. The next afternoon. Asked if I needed directions to the station. I said I could find it. After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt since that night. Hope. Real hope. Someone was taking this seriously. Someone with actual power to do something. Hattie drove me to the station. Waited in the lobby while I went back with Detective King. The interview room was small. A table, chairs, a recording device. He explained how it worked. That everything would be recorded. That I could stop any time. Then he nodded and I started talking. I spent 3 hours in that room, walking him through every single detail. Detective King never interrupted. Never looked skeptical. Just took careful notes. Asked questions that showed he was actually listening. About the men's behavior. About Vanessa's exact words to them. About the timeline. About who did what when. He asked me to describe each man. Their heights, their clothes, their positions. He asked about the terrace layout. About the locked door. About the bar setup. About who could see what. Every time I thought I was done, he had another question. A clarifying detail. Something specific. It was exhausting. But also good. Like he was building something solid. Something that couldn't be torn down. Near the end, Detective King pulled out a folder. Inside were photos. Stills from security cameras. Grainy but clear enough. He spread them on the table. "Is this the bar area?" he asked. I nodded. He pointed to one image. "Is this the man you called the quiet one?" I looked closer. There he was, standing at the bar. His hand was hovering over 2 shot glasses. His body angled to block the view from most of the room. But the camera caught it. The deliberate movement. The way he positioned himself. "That's him," I said. My voice came out shaky. "That's exactly what I saw." Detective King nodded. "The footage shows clear intent," he said. "This wasn't accidental." I felt something release in my chest. Validation. Someone else saw it. Someone with authority saw what I saw. But I also felt scared. Looking at that image. Knowing how close we came. How calculated it was. How practiced. What would have happened? I asked, not really wanting to know. Detective King's face got serious. "Nothing good," he said. "You did the right thing fighting back. Getting help. Both of you are safe because you acted." He explained what happened next. The toxicology results from my exam would take a few weeks to process. They were trying to identify all the men from the terrace, using credit card receipts, security footage, witness statements. He asked me to describe each man in detail. I told him about Ugly Shirt, how he seemed to be leading the group, making decisions, directing the others. I described the quiet one who did the actual drugging, his practiced movements, his calm face, the others who spread out, who blocked exits, who touched me. Detective King wrote it all down. "We'll find them," he said. It sounded like a promise. When I finally left the interview room, Hattie stood up immediately, searched my face. I nodded. She put her arm around me. We walked out together, into the afternoon sun, into whatever came next. That night, Hattie set up in my guest room without asking if she could stay, just started unpacking her bag like it was decided. I was grateful because when I tried to sleep, I kept jerking awake with my heart pounding, seeing the terrace door lock clicking shut over and over. She heard me the 3rd time and came in with tea, sat on the edge of my bed until the shaking stopped. The next morning, she made a list on her phone of things we needed to handle. Emergency leave from work, finding a therapist who specialized in trauma, changing my phone number again because people kept calling. She took over my laptop and started filling out forms while I sat there trying to remember my employee ID number. My brain felt foggy, like I was moving through water. Hattie printed everything and put it in a folder, told me we'd drop it at my office later. She found 3 therapists who had openings and called all of them, explaining the situation in this calm voice while I stared at my hands. One had an appointment available in 2 days. Sinead Brooks. Hattie booked it and wrote the time on a sticky note she stuck to my fridge. The morning of the appointment, I almost canceled. Hattie drove me anyway. The office was in a quiet building with soft lighting and plants everywhere. Sinead was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes that didn't look away when I talked. She asked me to tell her what happened, and I got through maybe 2 sentences before my throat closed up. She waited, didn't rush me or try to fill the silence. I started again, and this time I got further, describing the terrace and the locked door, and Vanessa's voice getting thick. When I told her about seeing the quiet one drop something in the drinks, Sinead nodded like she believed me completely. She taught me a grounding technique for when panic started. 5 things I could see. 4 things I could touch. 3 things I could hear. 2 things I could smell. 1 thing I could taste. We practiced it right there until my breathing evened out. She said what I was experiencing was normal. That my fear and constant alertness made sense given what I survived. Hearing someone with credentials say that made something loosen in my chest. I checked my phone in the parking lot after and found 27 notifications. Vanessa had posted a long explanation about being drugged at a party, about waking up in the hospital alone, about her supposed best friend abandoning her when she needed help most. She made it sound like I left her there on purpose, like I was jealous of the attention she got from men, and used the drugging as an excuse to ruin her night. The comments were all sympathy for her. People I'd known for years were calling me toxic and selfish. Mutual friends were messaging asking how I could do that to her. I watched it happen in real time. Every refresh brought more people taking her side. My hands started shaking again, and I had to do the grounding technique in my car. 5 things I could see. The steering wheel, my keys, the parking meter, a bird on the sidewalk, Hattie's jacket in the passenger seat. 2 days later, I got a message from Natasha, the bartender. She said she'd submitted a written statement to Detective King about what she observed that night. She described seeing the quiet one make a quick dropping motion into 2 glasses at the bar. She saw him angle his body to block the view from most of the room. She watched the whole group follow us onto the terrace and noticed how they spread out in a way that felt wrong. Reading her message made me cry because someone else saw it. Someone else noticed the same things I did and was willing to say so officially. Detective King called my new number 3 days after that. His voice was steady and professional when he told me they'd identified the quiet one through credit card receipts from the bar. His name was Bryson Travis. Hearing his actual name made him more real somehow, more solid. Before he was just this shadowy figure in my memory, but now he had a name and an address and a history. I had to put the phone down for a second and do the grounding technique. 4 things I could touch. The couch fabric, my water bottle, the throw pillow, my own arm. Detective King waited patiently until I could talk again. Harley Beck from Victim Services called the next week. Her voice was warm, but not fake warm. She explained my rights as the case moved forward. What a criminal investigation looked like. What charges might be filed. What my role would be in any prosecution. She gave me information without making me feel pressured to decide anything right away. She said I could call her anytime with questions. That she'd be my point person through the whole process. It helped knowing someone was assigned specifically to help me navigate this. I tried to go back to work on Monday. Made it as far as the parking lot before I saw a group of men standing together by the entrance talking. My chest got tight. My vision narrowed. I couldn't breathe right. I sat in my car gripping the steering wheel trying to remember the grounding technique, but my brain wouldn't work. Finally, I called my boss from the car and explained I needed more time. She was understanding. Said to take whatever I needed. But I could hear the concern in her voice. The unspoken question of how long this would take. Detective King called again 2 weeks after my exam. The toxicology results came back positive for benzodiazepines in my system. Actual proof that I was drugged. He said this strengthened the case significantly. I felt this weird mix of validation and horror. Validation because it proved I wasn't paranoid or dramatic. Horror because that drug was actually in my body. I came so close to being completely out of it. So close to not being able to fight back or run or do anything. Vanessa called my new number somehow. I don't know how she got it. She asked me to drop the whole thing. Said it was getting too messy. People were asking her uncomfortable questions about why she was flirting with those men, about what she said to them about me. Her voice had this edge to it, like I was the one making problems for her. I told her that men tried to assault us, that she helped them do it by taking my phone and tackling me and lying about me. She got defensive immediately, said she was just trying to have fun, that I was making it into something it wasn't, that I always overreacted to everything. I took a breath and tried a different approach. Told her I could help her get medical care and therapy for what happened to her, that what those men did to her was wrong even if she helped create the situation. That being drugged was traumatic and she deserved support. She went quiet for a second. Then she said she didn't need my help, that she was fine, that I was the one with problems. She hung up on me. I sat there staring at my phone, realizing she wasn't ready to face what she enabled, what was done to her, what almost happened to both of us. She'd rather blame me than look at her own choices. Detective King called 3 days later with an update that made my hands shake. The venue security had pulled their door lock logs and they showed exactly what I remembered. The terrace door locked automatically at 11:47 p.m. and stayed locked until 12:03 a.m. when security finally got it open. 16 minutes trapped out there with those men. He said the security guard who responded, a guy named Connor, gave a statement about what he saw when he got the door open. Connor described finding us with Vanessa on the ground barely conscious and the group of men surrounding both of us. He said the men were acting casual, but the whole scene felt wrong to him. Detective King explained this was important evidence because it proved we couldn't just walk away, that we were physically trapped with them. I thanked him and hung up, then sat staring at my phone for a long time thinking about those 16 minutes. A week later, I got a call from Harley at Victim Services saying another woman wanted to talk to me. Her name was Giselle White, and she had a similar experience at the same venue 3 months ago. Harley gave me Giselle's number and said she'd been working with Detective King but wanted to connect with me directly. I called Giselle that night and we talked for over an hour. She described going to the venue with friends and meeting a group of men who seemed friendly at first. One of them was quiet and kept making drinks, and she remembered thinking his movements looked practiced, like he'd done it a million times before. Her friends thought she was being paranoid when she said something felt off. She woke up the next morning with gaps in her memory and bruises she couldn't explain. Her friends convinced her she just drank too much and she didn't report it because she felt stupid and dramatic. Now she was filled with regret and wanted to give a statement to Detective King. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop the next day to talk more. Sitting across from Giselle felt surreal because she could have been describing my exact experience. She talked about how the quiet one positioned himself at the bar, how the other men spread out to block exits, how they worked together like they'd planned it. She described feeling trapped even though technically she could move around, the way they made comments that sounded friendly but felt threatening, how her friends dismissed her concerns and made her feel crazy for being scared. She got emotional talking about how she wished she'd trusted her instincts and reported it right away. I told her it wasn't her fault, and that coming forward now still mattered. She said she was giving her statement to Detective King that afternoon and asked if I thought it would help my case. I said I hoped so, that it showed a pattern of behavior, that these men had done this before. We exchanged numbers and promised to stay in touch. Walking back to my car, I felt less alone but also more angry knowing they'd gotten away with this before. That same night, Vanessa went live on social media, and I watched it happen in real time. She sat in her bedroom with perfect lighting and started talking about how people were spreading vicious rumors about her. She said some people were accusing her of setting up her friend when she was the one who got drugged and hurt. Her voice had that same desperate edge from the terrace, that need for people to like her and believe her. She talked about how traumatic the whole experience was for her, how she couldn't believe her best friend was turning people against her instead of supporting her. She cried on camera and said she just wanted to move on, but people kept attacking her online. I watched her perform and recognized the exact same behavior that led us to that terrace in the first place. She needed validation so badly that she'd twist reality to get it. The comments were mostly supportive of her, and I felt sick reading them. The next morning, Natasha sent me a screenshot of a text she'd received from an unknown number. It said she should stay out of things that don't concern her and mind her own business. The message was clearly a threat, even though it didn't say anything specific. Natasha was scared and asked what she should do. I told her to report it to Detective King immediately and forward him the screenshot. She did, and then called me crying saying she didn't want to be involved anymore, that she just wanted this to go away. I felt terrible that my decision to pursue this was putting her at risk. I apologized and told her I understood if she needed to step back. She said no. She'd already given her statement and she wasn't going to let them intimidate her, but she was definitely scared. Detective King called me that afternoon and said he'd received Natasha's report about the threatening text. Then he told me I needed to be careful about posting anything publicly about the case. He explained that defense attorneys would use social media to discredit victims, that they'd twist anything I said online. I wanted so badly to defend myself against Vanessa's lies, to tell my side publicly so people would know the truth. But I stayed silent and trusted that the legal process would eventually reveal what really happened. It was hard watching people believe her version while I couldn't say anything. In my next therapy session with Sinead, we worked on identifying what safety meant to me now. She asked me to think about concrete steps I could actually control instead of just feeling afraid all the time. We made a list together: change my locks, vary my routine so I'm not predictable, build a support network beyond Vanessa with people who respect my boundaries, take a self-defense class, keep my phone charged and easily accessible, trust my instincts when something feels wrong. The list helped because it gave me actions to take instead of just worrying. Sinead said focusing on what I could control would help reduce the feeling of being powerless. The next week, Harley walked me through filing for a temporary protective order against Bryson Travis, the quiet one who drugged the drinks. The process was intense and required me to describe everything in detailed legal paperwork. I had to write out exactly what he did, when he did it, why I believed I was in danger. Harley sat with me and explained each form, what to expect at the hearing, how the judge would decide. My hands shook filling out the papers because writing it all down made it feel real again. But Harley kept reassuring me that I was doing the right thing, that protecting myself was important. We submitted the paperwork and got a hearing date for 2 weeks out. 3 days later, a thick envelope arrived at my apartment from a law firm. Inside was a letter from a lawyer representing Bryson threatening to sue me for defamation if I continued making false accusations against his client. The letter said I was damaging Bryson's reputation and career with my lies. It demanded I retract my statements to police and drop the protective order or face legal consequences. I called Detective King in a panic and read him the whole letter. He sighed and said this was a common intimidation tactic, that defendants often tried to scare victims into backing down. He explained that truth is a complete defense to defamation, meaning if what I said actually happened, then it's not defamation no matter what their lawyer claimed. He told me not to respond to the letter and to forward it to him for documentation. His calm response helped, but I still felt shaken that they were coming after me legally. That afternoon, I got an email from my HR department. They were formalizing the accommodations for my leave and offering flexible scheduling when I returned to work. I could work from home some days and adjust my hours as needed. It was a small thing, but it helped knowing my job was protected while I dealt with everything, that I wouldn't lose my income and health insurance on top of everything else. I replied thanking them and said I'd let them know when I was ready to come back. 2 days before the hearing, I sat in Sinead's office and practiced what I would say to the judge. My voice shook reading from the notes Harley helped me write. Sinead stopped me and made me start over, slower this time. She reminded me to breathe between sentences and look up from the paper. We went through it 5 times, and each time my voice got steadier. By the end, I sounded like someone who knew exactly what happened instead of someone apologizing for existing. Sinead nodded and told me I was ready, that the judge would hear the truth in my words. I left her office feeling stronger than I had in weeks. The morning of the hearing, I put on my most professional outfit and met Harley outside the courthouse. She walked me through security and explained what would happen in the courtroom. We sat on a bench in the hallway waiting for our turn. Then Bryson showed up in an expensive suit with his lawyer, looking calm and respectable like he worked in finance or something. He glanced at me once with this small smile that made my stomach flip. His lawyer was already talking to the clerk, all friendly and casual. When they called our case, I stood up and my legs felt shaky, but I made myself walk to the front. The judge asked me to describe why I needed protection, and I used everything Sinead taught me. I looked at the judge instead of at Bryson. I spoke clearly about the drugged drinks and the locked terrace and how he still had my phone in his pocket when security arrived. The judge listened without interrupting and wrote notes. Bryson's lawyer argued that it was all a misunderstanding, that I was confused about what happened. But the judge granted the temporary order for 30 days based on my testimony and the police report Detective King filed. It felt huge, like someone with actual power finally believed me instead of dismissing me as paranoid. That afternoon, Vanessa sent me a private message. She said she was scared that maybe she was drugged too, that she kept having nightmares about that night and couldn't remember big chunks of time. She asked if I thought the men would have hurt her if I hadn't been there. Reading her words made me feel bad for her, but also still angry. I typed out a long response about how she put both of us in danger and then deleted it. Instead, I sent her links to therapy resources and the victim services number Harley gave me. I told her she should talk to someone professional about what happened. I didn't offer to meet up or rebuild our friendship. She read the message but didn't reply. 3 days later, the venue posted an announcement on their social media about new security measures. They were installing better cameras in all areas, including the terrace, and training staff to watch for signs of predatory behavior. The post didn't mention my case specifically, but I knew the investigation and all the attention pushed them to act. It felt good knowing something positive might come from what happened to us, that maybe other people would be safer because we reported it. Detective King called the next week with bad news about Bryson's toxicology results. They came back negative because too much time passed before he got tested. The men left the venue before police could do drug tests on them. King said the case would have to rely on witness statements and my positive test showing I was drugged. I felt frustrated that Bryson got away with that part, but King reminded me we still had strong evidence. Natasha saw him drop something in the drinks. Connor, the security guard, saw the whole group surrounding us on the terrace. The door logs proved we were locked out there. My toxicology proved someone drugged me. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to move forward. 2 days after that call, the doorman from the venue contacted Detective King with a statement. His name was Marcus, and he remembered that night because Vanessa was stumbling badly when we left, and the group of men was hovering around both of us. He said it looked wrong to him at the time, but he didn't know what to do about it. His statement was another piece of proof that something bad was happening, another person who saw we were in trouble. Reading his statement made me feel less alone in my version of what happened. All these people noticed something was wrong, even if they didn't intervene in the moment. The following week, I met with Prosecutor Tiernan Royce at his office downtown. He explained they were pursuing misdemeanor charges for administering a harmful substance instead of felony assault charges. He looked apologetic about it and walked me through the legal reasons. Without proof of what happened after I was drugged, they couldn't prove assault. The evidence showed Bryson drugged me, but not what he planned to do after. I felt angry that what happened didn't count as serious enough for bigger charges. Tiernan said he understood my frustration, but this was the strongest case they could build with the evidence. I told him I understood, even though part of me wanted to argue. That same week, Tiernan asked me to record a victim impact statement for the court. I sat in a small room with a camera and chose my words carefully. I talked about the nightmares that woke me up every night, about how I checked locks 3 times before bed and couldn't relax in public spaces anymore, about losing my best friend and my sense of safety in the world, about knowing someone deliberately tried to make me helpless so they could assault me. I kept my voice steady and didn't cry even though I wanted to. The statement took 20 minutes to record, and when I finished, I felt drained, but also relieved to have it documented. A few days later, Vanessa messaged asking if we could meet at Sinead's office for a mediated conversation. She said she wanted to explain things and thought having my therapist there would help. I asked Sinead if it was a good idea, and she said it might give me closure. I agreed to one session. Vanessa showed up looking tired and smaller than I remembered. We sat across from each other with Sinead between us. Vanessa started crying immediately and said she was sorry. Then Sinead asked her to be specific about what she was apologizing for. Vanessa took a long breath and admitted she lied about me to those men because she thought it would make her look cooler and more fun by comparison. She said she wanted them to like her more than me. Hearing her say it out loud made something click into place in my brain. I sat there listening to Vanessa apologize and felt this weird mix of validation and sadness. She kept saying she was sorry and that she didn't mean for things to go that far. But her apology felt like she was reading from a script, like she was sorry she got caught in the consequences instead of genuinely understanding how she endangered both of us. She never said the words that mattered, never acknowledged that she physically attacked me to keep me trapped with those men. Sinead asked her direct questions about her choices that night, and Vanessa got defensive, saying she was drunk and scared and didn't know what she was doing. I realized our friendship couldn't survive this. Not because I couldn't forgive her eventually, but because she still didn't really get what she did. She saw herself as a victim who made some mistakes, not as someone who actively helped predators corner her best friend. When the session ended, I told her I appreciated her coming, but I needed space. She asked if we could try again in a few months, and I said maybe, knowing I meant no. A few weeks later, I sat in the courtroom for Bryson's sentencing hearing, my hands folded tight in my lap to keep them from shaking. The judge read through the charges and the evidence, then looked directly at Bryson and said that predatory behavior wouldn't be tolerated in this community, that attempting to incapacitate someone for assault was serious even if the attempt failed. Bryson got probation, mandatory counseling, community service, and a permanent ban from the venue. It wasn't the jail time I'd hoped for, but hearing the judge call it predatory behavior made something loosen in my chest. Made me feel like someone with power actually understood what he tried to do. I left the courthouse and sat in my car for 20 minutes just breathing, feeling this weird mix of relief and anger that this was all he got. Over the next few weeks, I noticed the online rumors about me started fading as new dramas took over everyone's feeds, though when I searched my name, some of Vanessa's posts still showed up. I was learning to accept that some people would always believe her version, that I couldn't control what strangers thought about me or what happened that night. One afternoon, a thick envelope arrived with my name handwritten on the front in Vanessa's careful script. I opened it standing in my kitchen and found 3 pages where she acknowledged specific ways she betrayed me. How she physically attacked me to keep me trapped. How she painted me as paranoid to make herself look fun. The letter was more thoughtful than anything she'd said in person, with actual remorse instead of excuses, but I read it once and then put it in a drawer. I appreciated that she took the time to write it, but I wasn't ready to respond or re-engage. Wasn't sure I ever would be. That same week, I enrolled in a self-defense class at a gym near my apartment, wanting to feel more capable in my body instead of just afraid of it. The instructor was this patient older woman who didn't make me explain why my hands shook during the first demonstration, who just showed me the moves slowly and let me practice at my own pace. The other students were supportive too, a mix of people with different reasons for being there, and nobody asked questions they didn't need answers to. After the 3rd class, I started feeling stronger, more grounded, like my body could protect me instead of just being something that needed protecting. When I finally went back to work, my boss called me into her office and offered a flexible schedule that let me avoid late shifts and work from home twice a week. She checked in regularly without being pushy about it, just quick messages asking how I was doing, and my coworkers who knew what happened were quietly supportive. They gave me space when I needed it, and was included me in lunch plans when I was ready, treating me normal instead of like I was broken. I met Natasha for coffee on a Saturday morning to thank her for coming forward with her statement. We ended up talking for 2 hours about everything. About how she'd been feeling guilty for not doing more that night. About how her manager tried to stop her from getting involved. I told her that her statement made all the difference. That she helped save both me and Vanessa even though she was scared of losing her job. She cried a little and said she wished she'd acted faster, and I told her that speaking up at all took courage, that most people would have stayed silent. That afternoon, I opened the group chat with our mutual friends, scrolled through months of messages where they sided with Vanessa, and then I left the chat without explanation. I deleted all the draft messages I'd written to Vanessa but never sent, all the attempts to explain or defend myself or make her understand. It felt like closing a door on that version of my life, the one where I tolerated being treated badly, because being alone seemed scarier than being with people who hurt me. 3 months after that night, I was walking downtown past another venue with an outdoor terrace, and I caught myself automatically counting exits and checking who was standing near the entrance. The difference was that now I recognized this as reasonable safety awareness instead of paranoia, that my instincts that night were right even when everyone told me I was overreacting. My phone rang while I was still looking at the venue, and Detective King's name showed up on the screen. He told me that Bryson violated his probation by trying to contact Giselle through a fake social media account, and now he was facing additional jail time for the violation. I felt this surge of gratitude that Giselle reported the contact immediately instead of ignoring it, that the system was catching him even if it didn't catch him hard enough the first time. The following weekend, Hattie drove up to visit, and I took her to dinner at a restaurant I picked specifically because it felt safe, with good lighting and an open layout and attentive staff who checked on tables regularly. She noticed me relaxing as the evening went on, my shoulders dropping and my voice getting lighter, and she reached across the table to squeeze my hand. She told me she was proud of how far I'd come in just a few months, how I'd turned the worst night of my life into something that made me stronger instead of smaller, and I squeezed back feeling grateful for her steady presence through everything. 2 weeks later, I got a message through the Victim Services website from someone who said she saw Giselle's statement in a local news article about safety concerns at entertainment venues. She wrote that she had a similar experience with the same group of men 2 years ago, described the quiet one's movements at the bar and the way they surrounded her on a different terrace at the same venue. I read her message 3 times, my hands shaking, realizing this pattern went back further than any of us knew. I forwarded everything to Detective King within an hour, adding a note that this might help establish a longer history of predatory behavior. He responded the same day saying he would follow up with her directly, and thanked me for passing it along, mentioned that documentation like this could be useful, even if the statute of limitations had passed for criminal charges. The next afternoon, I had my regular session with Sinead, and instead of talking about what happened that night, we started mapping out what came next. She asked what kind of life I wanted to build now, what goals felt important beyond just surviving and processing trauma. I told her about Harley and how she helped me understand the system when everything felt impossible, how having someone who knew the process made me feel less alone and more capable. Sinead nodded and asked if I'd ever considered doing that kind of work myself, and something clicked into place. I realized I wanted to volunteer with victim services eventually, to help other people the way Harley helped me, to turn the worst night of my life into something that could protect or support someone else. We spent the rest of the session talking about practical steps like training requirements and time commitments, and I left feeling like I had a direction instead of just damage. 3 days after that, I was at the grocery store buying coffee and vegetables when I turned a corner and nearly walked into Vanessa. We both froze for a second. Then she said hi in this quiet voice I barely recognized. I said hi back, and we stood there awkwardly while other shoppers moved around us. She looked tired, shadows under her eyes and her hair pulled back in a messy way that wasn't like her usual style. She mentioned she was in therapy now, and I said that was good. Glad she was getting help. I didn't ask for details about what she was working on, and she didn't offer to reconnect or apologize again. We acknowledged each other like acquaintances who used to know each other better, people whose lives had gone in different directions. After a minute, she said she should go, and I agreed, and we went our separate ways down different aisles. It felt strange but also okay, like closing a door that needed to be closed without slamming it. The following week, I got an email from someone identifying himself as the new security director at the venue where everything happened. He explained they were updating their safety protocols and training materials based on recent incidents, asked if I would be willing to consult on the new procedures. My first instinct was to delete it and pretend I never saw it. But then I thought about that other woman who messaged me, about how many people might have been targeted there over the years. I replied saying I would review their materials and provide feedback, and we set up a video call for the next week. During the call, I walked through what happened from a security perspective, pointed out how the automatic terrace lock created a trap, and how staff should be trained to recognize coordinated predatory behavior. The director took notes the whole time and seemed genuinely interested in making changes, and afterward I felt powerful instead of powerless, like my experience mattered for something beyond just my own trauma. 6 months after that night on the terrace, I woke up and realized I'd slept through the whole night without nightmares. I was working full-time again, going to the gym 3 times a week, meeting up with new friends who respected my boundaries and never made me feel paranoid for being careful. I still had hard days when something would trigger a memory, and I'd spend an hour doing breathing exercises in my car, but I had tools now to manage the anxiety instead of drowning in it. The difference between 6 months ago and now felt huge, like I'd traveled a long distance even though I was still in the same city, living the same basic life. I finished the self-defense course on a Saturday morning, and the instructor pulled me aside after class. She said I had a gift for helping the nervous students feel capable, asked if I wanted to help teach the next beginner session. I agreed immediately, excited about building community around safety and empowerment instead of just fear, about showing other people they could protect themselves. Teaching felt like another way to transform what happened into something useful, to prove that the men on that terrace didn't get to define who I became. That evening, Hattie called and we started planning a weekend trip to the beach. Something normal and fun that had nothing to do with courts or therapy or processing trauma. We looked at hotels online and talked about restaurants and whether to rent bikes, and I realized I was genuinely looking forward to it. I could imagine enjoying myself again without constantly scanning for exits or checking who was standing too close. The beach trip felt like proof that I was building a real life again. Not just surviving, but actually living. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop working on training materials for the Victim Services Volunteer Program, reviewing scenarios and response protocols on my laptop. My phone buzzed with a text from Harley saying my application was approved, and I could start orientation next month. I smiled at my laptop screen, feeling proud of how I'd transformed the worst night of my life into a foundation for helping others. I'd refused to let what happened make me smaller or more afraid, even though it changed me. The coffee shop was busy with Saturday morning regulars, and I sat there among them, just another person working on their computer, someone who survived something terrible and decided to use it for something good. And that's a wrap on this one. I always try to make sure these stories leave you with something practical or thoughtful. If this one gave you even one new idea, that's what matters. Subscribe so you're ready for the next one.